going on, everybody? It's been forever. Yes, it's me. I'm back. Lord D. Mays. Yes, guys, I've taken a bit of a hiatus, but I am now back at you with a brand new video. Today, I really wanted to talk about something unique. A lot of YouTubers have made this video. It's not unique in that sense, but what's unique about this is it's a unique video on my channel. I don't think I've ever talked about the dynamic of the Straw Hat crew. Now, those of you who don't know what One Piece is, or are not aware of what One Piece will be, and you just started watching it, click off this channel. Total spoilers. Get out of here, you psychos. Check out One Piece. Greatest story of all time. I know a lot of you who don't watch anime, you feel like anime is one of these things that are very childish, cartoon-like, and it is, in some respects, but what we anime lovers get drawn to is the story. The fact that these mangakas, they give their heart and soul to everything they do in these mangas. And a lot of times the anime doesn't adapt to the manga correctly, or there's mistranslations. So you really miss out on a lot of the quality aspects of the story. But that's not what we're talking about today. I'm getting off topic. Today we are talking about the dynamic of the Straw Hat Pirates, which are the main cast of One Piece. You've got Luffy, you've got Zoro, you've got Sanji, you've got Frankie, you've got Robin, you've got Chopper, you have Nami, you have Robin and Brook, and of course Usopp. Those are the main cast of this story. And really where we get into a confusion scuttle is basically with the power gap. Now you guys are like, well, what's the power gap? I'm not understanding what you mean. Of course, I'm getting to that, guys. Let me get to it, okay? The power gap really complies when you're talking about the power gap between Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji. The rest of the crew is kind of vague. Actually, it's not even vague. It's actually very clear after that. But as far as the power gap between Luffy and Zoro, and then Zoro and Sanji, you know, that's really where the confusion settles in, right? Specifically Zoro and Sanji, right? It's like, who's stronger? Well, obviously Zoro. And then you have people who are like, no, Sanji. And then you've got people who are like, Sanji's obviously number 3, guys. He's not the vice captain. You know, so it's really an interesting conversation about those two specifically. But let me go in order. So Luffy is obviously the strongest by far. I think Luffy could take out all of his own members if it came down to it. So God forbid that somebody's got a parasitic fruit in the future that manipulates Luffy in a way that he attacks his own crew. I think that would devastate Luffy to the point of just quitting piracy. Now, the reason I wanted to make a video about this now is because we're in Wano right now, right? And we just got Jinbei. Officially, we just got Jinbei to join the crew. And now Jinbei's gone. Now Jinbei is possibly dead. We don't know. So it's interesting to think about what dynamic Jinbei would bring to the crew as the helmsman. And so here's where I would place Luffy and a parent to Jinbei. I think Jinbei would be an easy number 2, possibly number 3. Okay, Jinbei versus Sanji, I give it to Jinbei all day. Okay, and Luffy, in comparison, I think he's still way stronger than Jinbei. Gear 4th, guys, you have to remember, that is just the most badass technique I've ever seen Luffy use. I mean, Gear 4th is just crazy. The amount of strength, the Haki infusion against his rubber, it's crazy, it's amazing, I love it. So Luffy's by far the strongest. I mean, the power gap between Luffy, Zoro, and Jinbei, it's like you're talking about a Yonko versus a warlord at that point. You know, they're very similar as far as powers go, but where experience comes in, Luffy's got a world of experience over those guys. Maybe not Jinbei in terms of experience, but in terms of sheer power and use of his devil fruit. That's another thing too. Jinbei doesn't have a devil fruit. So Luffy could easily overpower Jinbei, I think, in Gear 4th. So moving on from Luffy, let's talk about Zoro a little bit. Zoro is interesting because we haven't seen a balls out fight with him. The last one was Pika, and let's be honest, that was like Zoro not doing anything whatsoever. He just, fucking 3,000 worlds, chopped a mountain in half, and then Pika was pretty much on his own, and Haki versus Haki, Zoro's going to win all day. So Zoro is, I believe, significantly weaker than Luffy. I just don't think that that I don't think it'd be close. I think Luffy could just wreck him in Gear Fourth. I really do, guys, and I'm sorry. That's just what I think. I don't think Zoro is in any league that Luffy's in. I really do think Luffy is one step below Yonko, which is why I think he's being called the Fifth Emperor, and I think that's why Oda did that, is because he wanted to showcase that Luffy is, yeah, he's on par with a Yonko, he just doesn't have the experience or necessarily the raw power of being a Yonko, right? Because we have to remember, these Yonko, they've been around since pretty much the Great Pirate Age, since Roger. I mean, Roger stole from Big Mom, so we know that, the Yonko have been around a very long time. And introducing Luffy into that, Luffy's super young compared to these guys. These guys are in their 60s, so Luffy is like fresh blood coming into this hot, he's rising to the top, and he's almost there. He's fighting all four. Now Shanks is young too, but he's not, you know what I mean? He's still a generation behind Luffy, so it's interesting to see that dynamic, and I don't think Zoro is on that level. I think Zoro is like Warlord level. And you guys have to remember, when I say Warlord level, Warlords are pretty much a step down from sub Yonko par. Warlords are stronger than the Supernovas, okay? And Supernovas are badass. Everybody knows, wow, Kid, Hawkins, Drake, Supernovas are awesome. So Zoro's above Supernova, obviously. He is Warlord level. That's what I'm going with. I'm sticking with it. Because in terms of Warlords, you guys want to argue this case, look at Mihawk, okay? Zoro's got to be on a similar level to Mihawk. And I think if Luffy fought Mihawk, it would be a close fight. I think Mihawk might win. So, if you look at it that regards, Mihawk being the pinnacle of Warlords, we can definitely put Zoro in the category of Warlord. And as far as the rest of the crew, here's where things get interesting, right? Because I'm moving on to Sanji. And Zoro versus Sanji, there are so many factors that would have to play out. But as for right now, unfortunately, and I hate to say this, but I think Zoro would win on Sanji all day long. It's not like Zoro would get out of that unscathed, okay? Zoro would be heavily beaten, broken bones, but he would have cut down Sanji. The reason I say that is because I think Zoro could have taken out Doflamingo if he really wanted to. And we saw what happened when Sanji clashed with Doflamingo. It wasn't even a close fight. And we also saw what happened when Sanji took on Virgo, who's on the same level as, that's the thing. We didn't really see what Virgo could do either. It's implied that Virgo was the next in command of Dolphy's crew. So maybe, it's tough to say. So maybe Sanji might have been able to take out Pika. It's possible. That would have been really cool. Could you imagine Sanji just kicking the shit out of that mountain and making it explode, and then Pika pops out of there? That might have actually been an easier fight, really, if Sanji could do that. So that's a really cool thought. But no, Zoro is leagues above Sanji. It would be close. It would be close. I would say, if we're putting this in terms of bounty, let's put this in a number, right? Let's say Luffy is in the billion category, right? Zoro would be 500 million, and then Sanji would be 300 million. Okay? That would be the categories there currently in strength. So that gives you an accurate power gap of where these guys are. Realistically, I think Zoro would be more like 800, maybe even 900 million. He's not far behind Luffy. But I think there's a clear gap between Zoro and Sanji. Now, let's throw Jinbei into this mix, okay? I don't want to move on from the big three without putting Jinbei in there. Jinbei throws everything out of whack because, you could always say that Sanji's weaker than Jinbei, and it's viable. Because Jinbei is an ultra power. I mean, we're talking about, this dude took on Big Mom and fucking punched her off to Sunny. This dude is not to be reconciled with. He was a warlord. He's subpar like Luffy is to Big Mom. I mean, to the Yonko. And I think that's very important to keep in mind, that Jinbei is above warlord level. He is above commander level for Yonko. So he's He's very strong and he throws off that power gap, and I'm not sure where he would place. He would place number 2 or 3 on the Straw Hat ship for sure. For sure. But for all intents and purposes, right now, Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji, the big three. The big gap is between Zoro and Sanji. That's the biggest gap. Zoro's pretty close to Luffy. Sanji's not close to Luffy or Zoro in that regards. But the next in line, who would be the next in line in the Straw Hats excluding Jinbei? Okay, and that's always a deep conversation because it comes down to Robin and Franky, right? Who's more powerful in the line of battle? Who's more tactical? I think Robin's really next in line, guys. And I know what you're thinking, but Franky's a I know. I would love to pick Franky for the number 4 spot in the strength tournament for the Straw Hats, but he's just not as versatile as Robin, right? In sheer power, yes, Franky dominates the game in that regards, but Robin has a brain behind her power, and she's got power. She's got millions of arms just wiggling around. She's definitely got a powerful devil fruit. So she would be number 4. Franky would be number 5. Just because he's a badass. Let's be honest, Franky's fucking awesome. He's a cyborg. And that fight with Senior Pink was just legendary. Where Senior Pink suplexed him off the top of a 6-story building into flat concrete where his human side was exposed, shattered the ground around him, and then Franky got back up and made it very clear that this is over. So that was really cool. Next, of course, I think is Brook. I think Brook should have really been higher on that list. But his soul powers are very specific to who he's fighting, because he could be fighting, let's say he got into a fight with Whitebeard and tried to use his soul powers. Whitebeard would negate that altogether and it would be over, So really Brook is the next one there. I really love Brook. Brook is one of my favorite straw. I had to pick, it would be Sanji, Brook, then Franky. And of course, Luffy's in a category of his own to me because Luffy's the whole central piece of One Piece.